You good? No. It's okay.
Don't rock the jukebox. I wanna hear some Jones. My heart ain't.
John Foster's entrance into American Idol Season 23 didn't come with flashy lights, dramatic tears, or over-rehearsed sob stories. It came with 3 red coolers packed with homemade Cajun food and the kind of quiet confidence that instantly turned heads. At just 18 years old, John appeared unbothered by the glitz and pressure of the audition stage. He didn't demand attention, he earned it. With a soft-spoken southern drawl and a cowboy hat that seemed to weigh more than just fabric, he was a walking contradiction to the polished, fame-hungry faces that typically swarm the Idol stage. But viewers didn't just see a contestant, they saw a mystery wrapped in humility. Almost immediately, speculation and curiosity flooded social media. Who was this kid from Louisiana? Why did he seem decades older in spirit than in age? And was his dream becoming a singing oncologist actually real? Fans began digging into his background, uncovering a life story that was almost too good to be true. But along with admiration came rumors. Some viewers began claiming John was older than he claimed, others speculated about secret industry connections, and a few questioned his intentions entirely. Was he an industry plant posing as a small-town boy? Or was he really just a grounded teen with a big dream and a bigger heart? The more John stayed true to himself, the more the nation leaned in to learn more. As Idol moved forward, one thing became clear. This wasn't just a contestant chasing votes. This was someone who had lived, loved, and longed enough to put real soul into every song. And in a show that thrives on emotional highs, John Foster didn't just join the competition. He became its heartbeat. Long before John Foster was singing to millions across America, he was just a quiet, observant kid in the small town of Addis, Louisiana. Born on July 9, 2006, as John Foster Benoit III, his roots ran deep into a community that values tradition, faith, and family above all else. Addis isn't the kind of place that makes headlines or churns out celebrities. It's the kind of town where people know your name, where kids grow up with dirt on their boots, and where community still means something. His family's legacy is carved into the heart of that town through Benoit Country Meat Block, a butcher shop opened by his grandparents in 1982. But it's more than just a business, it's a communal hub. Locals don't just come in for sausage or steaks, they come to catch up, share news, and feel like they're part of something. For John, that environment was foundational. It wasn't just about learning how to cut meat or greet customers. It was about understanding people, listening closely, and honoring where you come from. Those early lessons shaped the way he carried himself years later on a national stage. Even as a child, John was never loud or attention-seeking. He was thoughtful, kind, and deeply aware of the values his parents and grandparents worked hard to instill in him. In a world rushing toward instant gratification and viral fame, John represented something refreshingly different: patience, purpose, and pride in one's upbringing. His Catholic faith was a guiding force, influencing his worldview and the sincerity that oozed from his performances. While others chased noise, John embraced stillness. While many teens were obsessed with social media clout, he was more likely to be found helping out in the family shop, attending church, or spending quiet evenings with his guitar. And it's those humble beginnings, the unglamorous, honest hours in a small-town butcher shop, that gave John the unshakable foundation to step onto the American Idol stage, not just as a contestant, but as a man who already knew who he was and what he stood for. Unlike many of his musical peers who started singing before they could even write their names, John Foster didn't discover his passion for music until he was 15 years old, a fact that shocks most people given the depth of his voice and the precision of his delivery. It was around this age that he received his very first guitar, and that modest gift became a gateway to a world he hadn't yet explored. Without any formal music education, vocal coaching, or performance background, John did what he'd always done. He quietly committed. He began to teach himself to play, relying solely on instinct, a sharp ear, and the patient encouragement of his uncle, Galen Martin. While most kids his age were immersed in TikTok trends or video games, John was studying the haunting baritones and soul-laden lyrics of country greats like George Strait, Merle Haggard, and Conway Twitty. These weren't just songs to him, they were stories, lifelines, and maps to understanding emotion. He didn't mimic them, he absorbed them. He learned how they turned heartbreak into harmony, how their voices trembled with the weight of real experience, and he made that the foundation of his own musical identity. Over time, his sound matured, rich, deliberate, and dripping with the kind of authenticity that couldn't be faked. He started performing at small local events, where word of mouth carried faster than any promotional flyer. The turning point came when he was invited to open for seasoned country acts like John Schneider and Doug Stone. To stand beside professionals with decades in the business before even graduating high school was no small feat. It was more than exposure, it was validation, And yet through it all, John never let a hint of ego slip into his presence. Whether he was singing for a crowd of hundreds or just his family in the living room, the tone remained the same, heartfelt, respectful, and grounded. In an age where many young artists aim to go viral before they've even built a foundation, John Foster took the road less traveled, built not on flash or fast fame, but on reverence for the genre, unwavering discipline, and the slow burn of genuine passion. While most contestants entering a show like American Idol come with a single laser-focused goal to launch a full-time music career, John Foster brought something far more complex and frankly unprecedented. At just 18 years old, he wasn't just navigating the pressure of national television and public attention, he was also balancing a remarkable academic record and a dream rooted in compassion rather than fame. A proud graduate of Bruce Lee High School, John wasn't just another senior hoping for a diploma, he was the valedictorian of the class of 2024. That title isn't handed out easily. It's earned through years of rigorous coursework, sleepless nights, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. His academic ambition didn't stop there. John enrolled at Louisiana State University, LSU, as a freshman biology major, with one of the most touching and selfless aspirations ever mentioned on a talent show stage. He wants to become a singing oncologist. It's the kind of goal that sounds poetic and idealistic at first blush, but in John's case, it's rooted in real vision and personal conviction. The plan, to not only treat patients through medicine, but to comfort them through music, singing to the very people he's trying to heal. This dual path of science and soul isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. It signals a young man who sees music not as a career to chase for validation or wealth, but as a tool for healing, communication, and connection. It's no surprise that his Catholic faith plays a central role in this worldview. For John, every note he sings and every test he aces carries a deeper purpose, one intertwined with service, sacrifice, and love for others. And while some might question whether he can truly pursue both medicine and music, John's life so far is proof that he doesn't just dream big, he builds quietly and steadily toward those dreams with clarity, patience, and a moral compass that never seems to waver. On American Idol, where emotional stories are often manufactured for ratings, John's path stands apart because it's not just inspiring, it's authentic. And that authenticity resonates deeply with a generation hungry for sincerity. When John Foster stepped into the American Idol audition room, he didn't need a dramatic backstory package or emotional violin music to catch the judges' attention. His very presence, quiet and composed, did all the talking. He arrived with a cowboy hat tipped low, a soft smile, and 3 red coolers full of homemade Cajun food from his family's butcher shop. It wasn't a gimmick, it was a gesture, a symbol of who he was and where he came from. That same sincerity seeped into every note he sang. His first song was Alan Jackson's Don't Rock the Jukebox, a laid-back and fitting introduction, but it was his follow-up, Conway Twitty's heartbreaking ballad Goodbye Time, that transformed the atmosphere in the room. With no background music, no vocal effects, and no flash, John stood in front of music legends and made time stand still. His delivery was understated yet drenched in ache, like a letter written in longhand from someone who still believes in emotional honesty. Luke Bryan, initially skeptical, visibly shifted during the performance, changing his vote from a no to a stunned yes. The other judges, Carrie Underwood and Lionel Richie, didn't just nod in approval. They leaned in, captivated. What John delivered wasn't a performance. It was a confessional, a gentle unraveling of heartache that left the room reverent and still. Carrie praised him for his old-school voice and the kind of country timbre that's becoming increasingly rare in today's polished pop country scene. Lionel Richie compared the moment to hearing real life filtered through a young man's voice, unguarded and pure, and viewers watching at home felt it too. Comments flooded social media, describing how his voice transported them to another time, how it felt like their grandfathers were singing through him, how it made them cry without knowing exactly why. That's the power John carries. Not just technical skill, but emotional transmission. He reminds us what it feels like to be vulnerable, to sing not for fame, but for the simple act of sharing something real. His audition didn't just earn him a golden ticket, it announced the arrival of a soul worth listening to. In a season full of powerhouse voices and dramatic showdowns, it was one raw, unpolished, and deeply personal performance that truly broke through the noise, and it came from John Foster. Midway through American Idol Season 23, John chose to share something no one saw coming, an original song titled Tell That Angel I Love Her, written in memory of his close friend Maggie Dunn. Maggie wasn't just a passing acquaintance, she was a vital part of John's world, a 17-year-old cheerleader from their hometown of Brooklyn, Louisiana, who tragically lost her life in a car crash on New Year's Eve 2022. The circumstances were gut-wrenching. A police officer pursuing a suspect at dangerously high speeds collided with Maggie and her friend Caroline Gill, killing them both. The town was shaken, families were shattered, and John, who had quietly carried this grief, chose this moment on national television to turn personal tragedy into a tribute. Standing alone on the Idol stage, guitar in hand and eyes slightly downcast, John didn't perform, he mourned aloud. The lyrics were simple, almost whispered, "Lord, won't you tell that angel I love her, as soon as you can." With each word, his voice cracked, his hands trembled, and the silence in the room grew heavier. It was the kind of grief that doesn't fade, it just learns how to sing. At the end of the song, John whispered, "I love you, Maggie," wiping his eyes as a hush fell over the audience. No applause at first, just the kind of stunned silence that only truth can create. The judges were visibly moved. Carrie Underwood called it a beautiful moment of pure country soul. Luke Bryan admitted he felt like he was eavesdropping on someone's prayer. Lionel Richie, known for his own legacy of emotional ballads, said it was one of the most real and honest performances in Idol history. Viewers at home broke down. Twitter lit up with crying emojis, heartfelt tributes, and messages from people who'd lost loved ones and felt seen for the first time. John didn't just sing for Maggie, he sang for anyone who's ever carried grief with them like a second skin. And in doing so, he turned the American Idol stage into a place of healing, not just for himself, but for millions watching. As John Foster's presence on American Idol grew larger, so did the storm of rumors swirling around him, a now familiar phenomenon for anyone who finds themselves unexpectedly thrust into the national spotlight. The more people rooted for him, the more others began to dig, dissect, and speculate. It started innocently enough. Some fans questioned how someone so young could carry such an old soul in his voice. But soon, accusations began to spread. Social media threads claimed John wasn't actually 18 years old, alleging he was 24 and had fabricated his age to appeal to the Idol demographic. Others posted conflicting information about his hometown, insisting he wasn't from Addis, Louisiana, as he claimed, but from Benton, Kentucky, a completely unrelated location. More extreme rumors suggested that John had secret ties to country music royalty, specifically Dwight Yoakam, and had already been signed to Sugar Hill Records before the competition even began. Suddenly, the narrative of a humble, faith-driven Louisiana teen was being twisted into one of industry manipulation and identity fraud. Even his name, John Foster Benoit III, became a point of debate, with skeptics accusing him of hiding behind a stage persona. But John's response wasn't defensive. He didn't lash out or feed the fire. Instead, he calmly addressed the speculation in interviews and online Q&As, reaffirming that he was indeed 18, born and raised in Addis, Louisiana, and had no affiliation with Dwight Yoakam or any label. He explained that he goes by his middle name, Foster, and that the Cajun food he brought to the audition was from his family's own butcher shop. The rumors, while frustrating, never pulled him off track. In fact, they seem to highlight just how grounded he truly is. He didn't let internet gossip dictate his narrative. Instead, he doubled down on his performances, letting his voice do the work while the noise faded into the background. His ability to stay centered amidst chaos became part of what fans admired most. In an age where scandal and drama often overshadow talent, John Foster reminded everyone that the truth doesn't need to shout, it simply stands firm. Behind every strong and steady person often stands someone who helps them weather the storm. And for John Foster, that person is Brooklyn Bourc, his high school sweetheart and biggest supporter. While John has captured the nation's heart with his performances and gentle demeanor, Brooklyn has remained his anchor, offering quiet encouragement away from the limelight. Their love story began back in the hallways of Bruce Lee High School, long before anyone outside of their Louisiana town had heard John sing a note. Brooklyn, a spirited and well-loved cheerleader, and John, the respectful, grounded valedictorian with a guitar, seemed to balance each other naturally. What began as a young romance matured into a genuine partnership, shaped not by Instagram filters or public displays, but by mutual respect and an unshakable bond. While John hasn't made a spectacle of their relationship, those paying close attention to his idol journey have seen Brooklyn's quiet presence at key moments. She traveled with him to Hawaii for his top 24 performance, an experience that could have easily been overshadowed by the pressures of the competition, but instead became a memory they shared as a couple. She's also been spotted in the live show audiences, her expression proud but calm, her energy supportive but never overbearing. Friends close to the couple describe their relationship as one built on real communication, shared values, and trust. Brooklyn isn't chasing fame, she's cheering on the boy she's always believed in. And for John, her presence appears to be a grounding force, a reminder of where he comes from and who he is beyond the cameras. While other contestants may find themselves grappling with newfound fame, relationship drama, or media frenzy, John seems immune to the chaos, and Brooklyn is a big reason why. Together, they reflect a kind of love that's increasingly rare in the entertainment world, quiet, stable, and genuine. It's the kind of connection that doesn't need a stage to feel real. Whether John wins the competition or not, it's clear he's already won something far more lasting, a loyal heart that's been with him long before the spotlights ever found him. As the competition intensified and American Idol Season 23 moved into its later rounds, the pressure on contestants became enormous. Performances had to be sharper, choices more strategic, and personas more memorable. For many, this meant bigger notes, flashier production, and attempts to create viral moments. But John Foster didn't follow that path. Instead, he doubled down on what got him there in the first place: sincerity, emotional storytelling, and a voice that sounded like it had lived 100 lives. While others pulled out all the stops, John stepped on stage with just his guitar and a prayer, and somehow that approach resonated even louder. He steadily climbed into the top 10, not because of marketing gimmicks or online stunts, but because viewers saw something in him they rarely see on reality television: consistency. He didn't waver, he didn't reinvent himself to meet audience expectations. He stayed true, and in doing so, gained a fiercely loyal fan base. His TikTok clips began going viral, not for spectacle, but for soul. Fans posted reactions of themselves crying during his performances. Parents shared clips with their kids. Grandparents, who hadn't watched Idol in years, tuned in again, saying he reminded them of when country music still had heart. Judges who once seemed unsure now spoke about him as the season's most genuine storyteller. Lionel Richie praised his intimate presence, likening him to artists who didn't just perform songs but lived them. Luke Bryan, once hesitant, called him a silent storm, admitting that John's approach made him rethink what modern country needed. And Carrie Underwood, herself an Idol legend, repeatedly highlighted the emotional weight John carried with each performance. But perhaps most telling was the shift among viewers. John wasn't just a contestant to root for. He became a representative of a quieter kind of strength, a reminder that being loud isn't the only way to be heard. He gave voice to those who grieve silently, love deeply, and believe in purpose over applause. In an entertainment landscape crowded with showmanship, John carved out space with nothing more than authenticity, and that made all the difference. Whether John Foster ends up winning American Idol Season 23 or not, it's already abundantly clear that his influence reaches far beyond the boundaries of the show. He came in as an underdog, a kid with a guitar from a small town in Louisiana, and transformed into something much greater, a symbol of quiet resilience, emotional honesty, and the enduring power of staying true to oneself. In an era where music careers are often built on spectacle, scandal, or shock value, John represents a rare breed of artist, one who leads with heart, serves with intention, and communicates with humility. But what truly sets him apart is the dream he carries beyond the stage lights, a dream to become a singing oncologist. It's a phrase that sounds almost too poetic to be real, and yet when John says it, it feels not only possible but revolutionary. He envisions a future where he walks into hospital rooms, not just with charts and diagnoses, but with a guitar slung over his back, ready to offer both medical care and the soothing balm of song. He wants to be a healer in every sense of the word, through science, faith, and music. And in a world that often rewards ego and flash, this kind of selfless ambition is not only refreshing, it's desperately needed. Fans around the country are already rallying behind this vision. Some have started calling him the Heart Doctor on social media. Others share stories of how his music helped them through grief, anxiety, or illness. He's not just singing songs, he's building a legacy rooted in impact. And that's what makes John Foster such a compelling figure. He isn't chasing fame for its own sake. He's using the platform he's been given to create something deeper, something lasting. Whether he's in a hospital corridor comforting a patient, or on stage in front of thousands, one thing is certain: John will be singing, not for chart positions, not for headlines, but for healing. His story reminds us all that purpose, when paired with authenticity,